I can remember when I was a kid, I think back to my family, just growing up. And if anyone would have ever seen us, if we were out at the grocery store or walking around the mall or something, or just being a family, they probably would have thought, that's a perfect family. That's a picture of just a great family. It appeared as though we loved each other. We were always smiling and laughing. And that wasn't just a facade. It wasn't something that we just did out in public. We were that way at home as well. But then something happened. About 2 years ago, I got a call from a company that was looking for a youth director for a church in Florida. And as I returned that phone call and initiated conversations and went through interviews, my wife and I decided that we were going to move to Florida. That's what God was calling us to do, and so we did that. We were excited, and my family was excited for us because Amanda was pregnant, and so it was excitement, but it was sadness also, because eventually what was going to happen was we were going to be across country. We were going to have this brand new baby, this grandchild of theirs, and just it was going to be a different world for them. They weren't going to be there with their grandchildren like they had the rest of them. But they were happy for us. They were excited. Right as we were about to move, my brother and I decided that since we weren't going to be living close to each other anymore, we wanted to do one last thing together. And we'd heard about a concert that was going to be going on in Kansas, and so we went to this concert together. And we had a great time, and everything seemed kind of bittersweet because it was fun, but we knew that we weren't going to get to hang out that much together. And then on the way home, I got a phone call that changed my life. As it rang, I looked down and it said, "Mom's cell." And I picked it up, not thinking anything about it. And I said, "Hello?" And she said, "Tony, it's your mother, and I've got something to tell you." And immediately I thought to myself, oh my gosh, did someone get hurt? Did someone die? What's going on? And it was something that was just about as bad as that. She said, "Your father and I are getting divorced." And then she went on to kind of explain things, and to be honest with you, it just didn't make sense. It seemed like there was more to the story that she wasn't telling me. And just that thought alone, that feeling alone, it made me angry. It made me bitter. I began to develop a grudge against my mom. And so what I decided to do was that I was going to get to the bottom of this story. I was going to find out what was really going on. And so I put my investigator hat on, and I'm calling Dad, and I'm calling Mom, and we're talking to each other, and I'm asking questions, and eventually I get it out of them. I find out that they're getting divorced for a reason that is really nothing I want to talk about, but it was this family secret that finally came out. And as this family secret finally came out, they decided that they just weren't going to do it anymore. And through the course of 2 years, it was up and down and up and down and up and down, and I was so bitter at my mom and my dad because it was like they were running my life. This perfect family, this once picture-perfect family, had been turned upside down. But eventually what I figured out over the past 2 years is that I can't stay bitter at anyone, especially my family, especially my mom, especially my dad, because it was doing nothing but tearing us apart. And so, long story short, we made up. Everything is great now, and the family's on the mend. Mom and Dad are divorced. They're not together, but things seem a little bit happier than they once did. But it wouldn't have been that way if myself and other family members wouldn't have decided to deal with their bitterness. So I identified where my bitterness was coming from. I realized that it wasn't just something on the surface. I realized that it was more than that it went deeper than just the surface. And that's what you guys have to realize. Tonight, you're going to go into small groups and you're going to talk about bitterness. Bitterness is something that holds you hostage from God. God has called you to be a person that is not bitter, that does not hold a grudge. But sometimes we do that. And my guess is some of you in this room right now are either currently dealing with bitterness or have. And if neither one of those apply to you, one day bitterness will enter into your life. And you have to make the decision. Am I going to let this manifest itself? Am I going to let it grow? Am I going to let it fester? Is it going to get bigger and take over my whole life? Or am I going to deal with it? Bitterness can hold you hostage.